Hello YouTube. Hopefully hello Twitch. How you all doing? Let me just check if Twitch is good. Oops, I shouldn't really be on here. Are we live? Let's go to my channel. Look at that. I figured it out. Okay, are we live on YouTube? Yes. Okay, fantastic. Okay, let's share this. Right, I think I have solved the issue with Twitch not working. It turns out that I had the stream kilobytes or whatever it was, like bits per second, like way too high. The default is 10,000. I put it up to 16,000. After doing a bit of research, it should be 6,000. Who knew? So yeah, hopefully Twitch is a little bit more stable after that. You won't have to... right, let me just get up YouTube chat. I do have the Twitch chat open. So I will explain afterwards what we end up doing once I've got YouTube chat open. Basically, we're going to work on spawning things in. We made a little progress yesterday, a little headway. Just get this YouTube chat open. Once it takes a minute to load. And scroll down. Oop, come on. Loading, loading, loading. And my laptop is really slow today because it's running out of batteries. That's why I had to rush yesterday. Hello Twitch viewers. Just getting the YouTube chat open on my other computer. With streaming, I will just mention, I am working on getting everything working behind the scenes. We're not quite there yet. We need to, I think more importantly, before I do anything with alerts, which, you know, maybe the first thing that comes to mind, I want to make sure that you can both see each other, YouTube chat and Twitch chat. That'll be the next task. There are ways of doing it as of right now, but it turns out that particular way of doing things was a bit hodgepodge and a bit more sporadic. So we're not going to do that until I find like a good solution. I don't want to have like 20 different bots, you know, 7 different plugins, all doing like one thing each. I'm trying to find a solution where it kind of does everything. So as of right now, I'm looking at a couple of different things. So hopefully you'll be able to see each other. But anyway, for now, coding. What did we do yesterday? Okay, so the first thing that we fixed was the texturing. As you can see, we did a bunch of assets fixing. So I'll just run that so you can see what's going on. So this is my terrible menu. So if I turn off the debug geometry, we can see that on this particular model, which is a little bit more complicated than everything else, we are using block 7 compression. There are some compression artifacts when it comes to this particular type of texture, but I think it's all okay, right? The cost is the fact that now this file is actually 600 kilobytes rather than 7 megabytes. So we got that working. It turns out that I was trying to load in a texture that wasn't really correct, so that's what we ended up fixing. Where are you from? I'm from the UK. Thank you for joining us, Danny. Or Daniel. Is that a 3J? Danny 3J. Yes, I'm from the UK. Right, so we fixed that yesterday. The next thing that we did is we worked on spawning things in, which I'll just restart so we can see this easier. Yes, please excuse the terrible menu. But if I press, again, I'll just turn this off for now. If I press space, we should see a rock appear just above the dock. Oh no, that's the, I keep forgetting. That is a laser sound effect, not. But if I press 2, we have this. This is the beginning of bullets, right? So that's the first thing that we're going to be working on. Yo, Void. We're going to be trying to spawn in bullets. I decided yesterday that it's going to be easier to spawn in bullets on a CPU rather than worrying about like compute shaders and trying to do things that way around, because the way that everything needs to interact with other bodies in the physics engine, as far as I'm aware anyway, I'm restricted by this physics engine's code. It's very good code. It's just the way that it handles collision detection is through a function callback, basically. So we end up getting a function callback on collision detection. So you don't have any control of what ends up coming out, apart from the fact that we have two bodies, which can have user data, which we do pass in. I do a reinterpret cast, then I get the entity out, and then I basically do a switch statement over the entities and figure out what do we need to do based on that particular type of collision detection happening. So yeah, it's a bit of a crazy one. I don't know how the combination works with these two. I will have to look this up online. So we're going to probably doing a bit of research. My goal, though, honestly, today is to basically spawn in something that travels for, I don't know, let's just say 20 meters. And then when it reaches 20 meters, we just put it back at 0 and we fire it again, right? That's the goal, where we have like a constant moving bullet, right? And we just allow the bullet to travel and then return back to 0, allow the bullet to travel, return back to 0. The idea there is we have a bullet that travels, 20 meters. If it hits something, then we delete the rock that it hit, for now anyway. We'll do an explosion later. That's all about particle effects on the GPU, which is, something that we've been working on. But for now, we just need to have like basically a conveyor belt of bullets that we can just keep reusing over and over again efficiently, right? So what I'm going to do is, I've decided yesterday as well, is we allocate a set of resources. So right now we have 8,888 rocks. We're going to have an extra load of total entities, so we actually have more space. And this will be for bullets and, other stuff that's going to be floating around the scene. So maybe there's a spaceship, maybe there's bullets. We're going to kind of hopefully incorporate them all. Anything that's CPU based needs to be an entity, so that is to work with our system right now. Because as I said, as far as I'm aware anyway, I could be using Jolt wrong. I will be, put my cards on the table with that. But right now, the only way I know how to generate the data, actually do something once the collision detection is happening, is to pass, where is it? It is somewhere here. Is to pass generic data. Yes, set user data here, these functions, right? Is to pass generic data up to the, up as a void star pointer, and then cast it based on an enum type. That might be bad, right? I don't know. I don't think it is. I don't think it's necessarily terrible. But I will say that our goal today, I'm going to use I know it seems silly, but our goal today is to, when I press the number 2, is instead of having a, well, it doesn't really matter if I have the debug geometry on. For those who don't know, this is debug geometry. It tells me that the collision detections are actually going to take place at. Again, it's a bit rough at the moment, so that's by design. This is the player. Hypothetically, if we could move the player. We're on no clip camera at the moment. Anyway, so if I press 2, instead of just spawning this, I'm going to scale it down so it's a lot smaller. And we're just going to use the rock. The rock for now is a bullet. And we're going to fire this out. It's going to have a different collision, a different, what is it called? A different, different colored debug mesh, so we can actually see what that is. So yeah, let's get on. So user data is exactly what that's for. I've even stored non-pointers via transmute. All about the user key. Thank you, Zach Zaka. There we go. So yeah, we can see that we can keep spawning in rocks over and over again as well. We can store more than, but we need to limit ourselves. We can't keep spawning forever. Anyway, so let's. The first thing we need to do is scale those rocks down, I think. Bullets need to be their own thing, and when we do a bullet collision detection on a rock, we need to do a different thing. Let me just get some water. Fortunately, our heat wave is coming to an end, thankfully. Holy moly, it's been pretty miserable. So yeah, let's so I think what we need to do is scale, and I don't think we scale anything actually, now I think about it. So if I set the radius to, I don't know, let's do something bigger so I can see it. So Zacharias asks, are you mixing engine plus gameplay in the same project? Yes, 100%, yeah. By design, by the way. So scene, well, you can see anything that's game related is in the folder game if you're interested. The source code is in the description for new viewers if you're interested in both Twitch and YouTube. So all the game code is here, graphics code is here. Foundation is its own project that has its that has a bunch of lower level stuff. It has allocators, it has custom data structures, it has like stuff I never use like color, stuff like that, you know. So that's the structure, and we also have physics for the physics stuff. That's kind of new, so that's kind of game engine specific as well. But yeah, anything game related will be in. Anything game related will be in the source. Oh, and application. Applications, again, engine specific as well. So everything other than game is supposed to be game specific. Yeah, and it's by design. The reason I haven't separated them out into hard different libraries is my game design is supposed to drive the engine technology, so they need to be quite coupled together, right? That's the idea. So yeah, there we go. That's how it goes. Also, anyone on Twitch, if the Twitch does go down, let me know on YouTube or somewhere. I hopefully have fixed it. I did spend a couple of hours trying to improve the Twitch viewer experience, and I'll keep working on that for you guys. Works good, fantastic, love that. Thank you, Zaka. All right. So we have scaled up the geometry, the debug sphere. I think this is the debug sphere rather than anything else. So, so if I press 2, yeah, okay. So that doesn't scale the geometry. That scales the mesh. So that's a lie. That scales the collision geometry. It doesn't necessarily scale the model itself. They are definitely separate at the moment. Because what does 13.5 mean for a model? It doesn't really mean anything. Like, to scale a model, I have to do something very different. There's no way to say, oh, physics engine. The physics engine isn't one-to-one with any arbitrary model that I load in. So it's kind of like I have to do a bit of back and forth between both the model and the geometry to figure out, like, what's the best fit for a what is it called, for the collision mesh versus the model, because they're not related at the moment. So yeah, we're gonna have to worry about scaling. It's possible that I just load in a really small model as well, but I think it's probably a good idea to work on the scaling for now anyway, because the scaling is going to be relatively useful in the future. There is a way to scale. I mean, scale matrices are quite straightforward to implement. So I do want to make a smaller model. There should be a way to do that, actually. I do have a global scale matrix, which scales everything in the scene. We'll have to see what else. Just loading up the Discord in the background. Cool. Right. So I'll put this at 13.5 in a minute. Oops, that's 15. Okay, so what do we want to do here? We need to... Let's also change the music after this. Actually, I'll change it after the next track. I love this track. This is my favorite track in Jak 3. So we have rock, duck, bullets, dynamic entity, set user data, body ID. Yep. So what do we want to do here? We want to take... This, I think, needs to be... well, maybe not. Okay, so the idea here was to avoid having to load... I'll do this at some point in the future, but this is a giant to-do. I'm just going to add this in so I can kind of, like... this is for other people who might use the source code in the future and wonder why there's nothing in here. To do... create... debug geometry for collision and lighting. So this is also true for lighting as well. I'll have to come up with a different system for that. But anyway, etc. Here, rather than loading in a model on disk. You can imagine why, for those who don't know, I/O is very, very, very slow. It's slower than even memory. So if we can have it in memory and load that instead, that would be better. So that's what this is supposed to be for, but I never got around to finishing it, so I'll just put that there for other people who may look at the source code in the future and be like, what the hell is this for? Alright, so what do we need to do here? I need to think for a minute. I want to scale the geometry on the scene side. How is the transform worked out? That's the first question for the actual model itself. So we have right at the top here, we have 3 different build functions which do 2 different things. We have load model, and this is for every type of model. We have KTX on and off for now. We assume GLB every single time if you're using a KTX thingy. And so we have this, right, which reads in the actual model data's transform itself. This is nothing to do with animation, by the way. We don't actually have animation support yet. But that's not really a big concern for like a generic asteroid-like space game. Anyway, so I'm not that concerned with animation as of right now. But anyway, so we have this, and I'm thinking, do I want to mess around with this if I want to scale it down, or do I want to like have a scale? Let's look at the materials. Has all the, so we have instance of reflection, alpha cutoff, debug, we got base color, emission. No, I think what we need to do here is something a bit different. Right, so I'm just going to change the song real quick, just so we can just listen to something a bit different. Let's go with, yeah, we'll go in the RPG land and listen to a bunch of stuff down here, yeah. Starting with, yeah, we'll do some Spyro. Yeah, oops, didn't start this off. Alright, cool. Okay, so alpha cutoff. We load in a bunch of stuff if it exists. If not, we have the demo debug. Except for normals. Oh yeah, that messed everything up. I'll have to talk to someone about this. I didn't understand how to fix this. This is I think I need to just talk to it like a more experienced graphics programmer. When I uploaded a default normal texture, that messed up all the normals because they all pointed in the same direction. So the lighting made no sense. Let's turn this down just a touch. So yeah, you want to have like as many ifs as you want to remove as many if statements in your shaders as much as you can. So that was the idea here, that we have like a default texture that removes all the if statements, but I couldn't do it for normal textures because it was very difficult to figure out what that even should be. Anyway, what should the normal matrix be in that situation? So yeah, let's look at the, instead of looking at the CPP file, let's look at the data itself, because then it's going to give me an idea of where I can store this. I'm trying to find a way that I can store the like the scale inside a variable that already exists rather than making a new one, because there is a cost to having excessive you know, attributes. It isn't free, so I'm trying to figure out exactly what I might try and do is have a so when we do this, we do a copy, is CPU based, so we basically copy over stuff, I think. So mesh draws, I think we want to shrink down the model. Arigato. Arigato. Indeed. It says Heisenberg. Hello, sup. I think it meant to say konnichiwa, but there we are. Who cares? We can say arigato to say hello. Who knows? They might get a laugh out of someone. Okay, so we need effectively a way in the scene code to pass in the scale of... how do I want to handle the scale? That's the next question. So it's going to be a uniform scale, so I can pass in a I can just pass in a number. I don't want to send in like 1,000 arguments though. That's the concern I'm starting to have. If I have like you know, we have a boolean here, which isn't ideal, but I think the alternative is to have 2 different function calls, which would duplicate the code considerably, which would be kind of a pain in the neck. So I'm not really sure how to get around that yet. But anyway, so what I'm thinking of doing anyway is having a scale number that we just kind of go, okay, pass in the model, scale it by GLTF model node hierarchy. Each node has its own translation, rotation, and scale. To later scale it and move it to translation to... Yeah. So what I want to do, that's exactly right, Sakasaka. So later to scale or move a translation, rotation, or scale of your root node. So what I want to do is basically in engine scale down the translation node, right? The extra root node is needed if one GLTF node has multiple roots. Root is not an identity transform. Root is animated. Animated. Extra root nodes which you add yourself. Also want to do basically is take the... So we have a translation, rotation, and scale matrix that comes from... You are right, by the way. But also want to do effectively is just be like, okay, where is it? It's the final matrix. So here, right? So effectively, my idea to avoid having to store extra data in the shader is to go... I'm commenting it out now for just for a minute. Is to go make CGLTF. No, CGLM. Make... Is it sorry, mat for... Forgot, I haven't used the library in a minute. Make... Oops. Ugh. Sorry, I was kind of abusing IntelliSense there. I should just maybe look up... It's hard to look this up though, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, CGLMs... Scale... That's it, make scale, that's what I wanted. And then we pass in a... I assume... is it a vector? Mat4's... Yeah, vectory. So that would be just... you know, like 1. But if I want to scale it less, it would be like what? This is just half scale. So I'm using a member initialized list here. Right. That's my idea anyway. I just have a transform struct, which is the position, rotation, and scale model matrix is computed each frame mesh ID plus model mesh. Model matrix. Heisenberg, I'll think about that in a minute, Zaka. So, I'll just read this out. Any thoughts on teaching game development with C++ on YouTube? A lot of people are looking for quality resources in game dev. No, I haven't thought about that. I think what I've done when I talk about what I've done in game development, it's generally half educational, half showing that I'm actually working on stuff. But I know what you mean. You mean like how to build a game engine from C++, like the Cherno does. It probably would be good in the sense that I would probably get more views and subscribers and stuff, but at the same time, that would take away time from game development. So there's a trade-off there. So I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to say yes, because that trade-off is important. So I just transform. So Zakra said. So you should be able to just control the transform via interface via those 3 parameters. I think Cherno just made an uninspired Unity clone. Yeah, yeah, what I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do the simplest solution. Zach, I do hear what you're saying. There is like some kind of extra data structures probably I can tack on top, but I think for now, if we do the simplest thing, we'll be able to see where the foibles are very quickly, because it will be very simple to you know, iterate on. And you know, eventually maybe we should add our own nodes and they do a model ID system based on like some model matrix kind of thing. But I think all I want to do right now is just say, oh, you're right, actually, now I think about it. How do I know which one's which? Yeah, you're quite smart, actually, thinking about it, Zaka. The reason that you've done that, I think, let me explain it to you, see if I can get this right. If I scale every matrix down, sorry, every model down, I'm reusing every model, I'm doing instant rendering right now. That means it'll scale down every single model in the instant rendering case. Okay. I think I need to be... You know what? I'm making this complicated. I'm doing this on purpose to be easy to do, right? I should do the easiest thing for now. But what I'm doing here is going to be a mistake, I think. Sorry about the gardening going on in the background. I do apologize. It's I live in some flats and there's a gardener going on. But I'm fine. It doesn't bother me, but you know, that's what the noise is. I think what we should do is just scale it down in Blender, call it a day, export that out. That's it. It's a different model. We'll run it through GLTF pack. That's fine, right? I think that's what we should do for the easy case, right? I should be doing the thing that's the easiest at the beginning. And to speak on Cherno, yeah, the more people every time I bring him up, people say that, you know, originally he started out kind of cool, inspired them, but after that, he kind of fell off. And it's funny because I never really got that far through his Hazel Game Engine series. I stopped immediately as soon as he got to ECS. Because even back then I was like, I don't need to code an ECS for this. Right, okay, so what we're going to do here is... Yeah, exactly, it's a massive hack. If you don't have a scale control for your entities, then only the right solution is export model. Yeah, exactly. So I think you're right there. I mean just, so Heisenberg said, I mean just basics of C++ game development, then some good projects, just 1 or 2 starting out for game development. Maybe it's a good idea. So if you're interested in that, Heisenberg, I know you would like me to do it. I would personally recommend you over to someone who's already done that. I think I've recommended him a couple of times. But if you want projects to follow... One Lone... I think he's done a fantastic job. And I just think... I know you've probably seen me recommend this guy before, but I think... It's something I could do, by the way. I'm not ruling it out, but, you know, if you want something now... these projects are fantastic, honestly. Like, I've done this. You can find this on my YouTube channel. Like, I've literally coded this particular thing. It was really fun. I've done this one. I haven't done that one. You know, he has, like, basic... Even though it's not 3D game development, which is... I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about. This is, like, how to learn C++, in my opinion. Like doing the Tetris video. Doing the ASCII FPS, you know. I really think these are, like, where you want to be starting. But anyway, I'll leave you to decide if you want to do that. I did a DDA ray tracer from his video. Exactly, yeah, it's fantastic, yeah. I assume you have, yeah, position plus rotation per entity. Be adding scale. Oh, you completely spot... Bro. Yeah, I do. Why didn't I think of that? Okay. Yeah, because I can just say bullets does this, and we just scale it down. Okay, this is way easier now. Okay, Alright, so what do we want to do then? I don't know how many... I'm going to look up this function real quick and just see how many objects can be spawned in at once. Because I don't want to overload the physics engine, you know what I mean, in the body interface. Like, what's a good number for this? Because I've currently got like tons and tons and tons of geometry here. Number of in, added state, yada yada, okay. Finalize adding bodies to the physics system. Yeah, you're completely spot on there. I could literally just do a scale matrix in the position, because I do have position and rotation, of course. Duh. Finalizing adding bodies to the physics system. Supply the return of the add body. Yep. Please ensure that the IOs are passing arrays. It's a mod of... Yep, that's exactly it. But is there a limit here? I don't want to add too many. Because I don't want to exceed the amount that you should be passing in. Because the reason you do this, by the way, in Jolt is so it builds up the bounding volume hierarchy, so it has that acceleration data structure, so it can do the collision detection on. But I don't want to obviously pass too much in. So yeah, we're just going to look up how many we can pass in, because I am a bit concerned that if I just keep increasing the number, we end up... the physics engine's going to break. You know, if you pass in like 20,000, is that going to completely destroy the bounding volume hierarchy? I think it's an octree that gets regenerated every single time. But is there a limit? I mean, there's a limit of total number of bodies, but it doesn't tell me how many I should be adding at once. If you know what I mean. There's, I think, I think it's the limits of 16 bits. Let me look at the physics code real quick. So we have multiple layers. Yes, standard. You've seen this in the example code. It's nothing interesting. Where did I put the... Ah, here it is. Yeah, yeah, it's max 16-bit. But if I just put in the max number of bodies in one go, is that just going to completely destroy like everything? I don't know. Obviously, we can't have more than this. Which is still a lot, by the way, you know. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we don't end up... We're not going to ever have this. I don't think we're that interested. I don't know if that's going to improve or... Max number of pairs that can be queried at a time. Oh, the broad face overlap. Okay, never mind. That's what I thought it was something else. I thought it was constraints. If you have a buffer too small, the queue will fill up and the broad face job will start the narrow phase. I see. So the less efficient, note this value. This value is low for a simple test. Yeah, so I've changed these to that because it does suggest. Let me think. There's probably no limit. I didn't see it. You didn't see the announcement on the Discord. Really? Did I not send it out? I think I did. Oh, I don't know why that didn't happen. Sorry. Okay. So we have that done. I mean, it'll be fine for now. I would like to know, is there a limit? If there's no indication of there is a limit. Okay, so that's finalized, but is there add bodies? What's the function before this called? I've forgotten. It is... it's insane, sorry. It is add and prepare. Is there a limit to this guy? Like I suggested. Okay, add and prepare. Preparing a number of bodies in. Returns a handle that should be used for this, okay. This can be done on the background thread without influencing the... Yep. IO bodies may be shuffled around by this function. Be kept... Okay, so yeah. Doesn't seem to be a limit. Okay, so let's just check there's like no class documentation. It tells us... No, okay, so there's no... As far as I'm aware anyway. Yeah, just bear with me for a bit. I do want to find this out if it does exist. So I'm going to go to bodies. I'm going to go in the source code here. It should be here somewhere. Body, jolts. And then... You're not here? Okay. Where's the body interface at? It's going to be easy to find because I've got it coded into my project. So where do you live? Yeah. Okay, so... Okay, the class provides an operation using an ID, body ID. Yeah. Is there a limit? I'm really interested to find out. Nope. Okay, if there's no limit specified, I'm just gonna assume there isn't a limit until I reach the max number. No, I'm gonna. Okay. Maybe it's something to ask the internet. Is there a for other game devs to do? But anyway, let's. I don't think 20,000 is gonna get close yet. To a max anyway, so I'm not that worried. We're way below that anyway. We're only at like 9,000. But anyway, so let's start adding in our model view projection stuff. So yeah, there it is. That's the position, which is everything that we need. Honestly, we can just do a scale on top of that. And we're done. That's all I need to care about. So the shape position comes from the transform, and that comes from probably no limits. Who's Vulkan? You're already at your second goal. Am I? Oh, cool. Yeah, thanks for the follows, guys. I do appreciate that on the Twitch side. Yes, I do apologize again for the annoying noise in the background. That is a gardener I cannot get rid of. Alright, let's, unless I get arrested for assault and battery, if you know what I mean. So we want to add them all up front. Build scene. We want to have the position all at 000, basically where the player is. And yeah, send him my C++ engine to blow up his yeah. He'll be gone. He'll be gone shortly. I'll just crank everything up to the max. Alright, so let's, we need, I don't know how many bullets we need. This is going to be kind of like a play-by-ear type situation. So obviously this needs to be a start at total rocks, then go to total rocks plus, I'm going to go with 1 for now, just so I can do it easily. And then we'll slowly improve that as we go. So I'm just going to take everything out exactly the same, except I'm going to change the position and stuff like that. The spawning in of geometry is not something I want to do with bullets. I'm going to try and spawn them in at load time. So all I want to be updating then is the position. That's the idea. Once I press like 2 to like fire something, I'm going to update the position. This will hopefully avoid needless allocations on the first time you fire things, especially because I'm going to have control over what you're going to be able to do in the game, right? So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so position is just going to be lazily 000 for now. In fact, I can just get rid of this. There's no reason to keep that, because I can just do, I think I can do that. Rotation is, again, not going to be randomized, because I don't think it matters. So we have scale and axis. Okay, so these are important apparently. So I can probably just set this to 0.0, 0.1.0, 0.0. It doesn't really matter. The rotation of something is not going to matter at all. The angle is just going to be 0. So we're rotating it 0 on the y-axis. Okay, we can get rid of these, which is just not going to be useful. The size is obviously going to be way smaller, so this is going to be like, for now we'll do 13.5. So we just need an identity from quant. This, yes. In fact, we probably don't need to reassign it if it's not assigned. Assuming that we've got a default construction here. We don't, so I'm going to assume that's the case. What else do we have that's default? We've got to be careful here that we don't have gravity on. Because obviously there are no... Obviously we have gravity. I didn't tie my translation, rotation, and scale to my physics body yet. It's somewhat complicated. Because physics doesn't like to update bodies after creation, but entity systems inherently are mutable. Yeah, I can see that. For now, this is again, this is probably another reason that we should do this. That we should just allocate all the stuff that you're going to be using in game on that level or whatever ahead of time. So yeah, we want to turn off gravity. Everything else is fine. Angular friction, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to delete both of them as soon as they collide. So, yeah, we just need to turn off gravity. So, I mean, we do it anyway, but I, don't want to assume that it is a moving object. It's not static. It should have a yellow collision geometry, so I can see the difference. Obviously that needs to be 0, and it is it's on the moving layer, and it's not static, it's dynamic, because we will be pushing all the data to the GPU. In fact, we could probably, for now anyway, is position even used anywhere? Okay, it's passed in here. Okay, that's fair enough. And this is going to be a bullets entity, which is different. The debug type is sphere. It is the rock model, which we're going to use as a debug for now. Hey, I hope it's all going well. Oh, thank you so much. That's really nice. Friendly heart indeed. Yeah, all is going well. Hope things are going well for you. I know sometimes things have been a bit rocky for you, so I do hope things have been going well for you, man. Right, okay, so we need to then... Okay, so we build the entity up. This is not going to have any scale yet, but I need to figure out when. So we have position. When is this actually used? Interesting. Do we even use it? We have rewritten this function a couple of times, so... yeah, I don't think we do. I don't think we use any of these, actually. Because what we do is we pass everything into the physics engine, and then we scale it by the physics engine. So I think all this is a waste of time slash confusing me. I think this has confused me in the past. So I'm going to get rid of that. It's obviously going to break everything, but that's by design at the moment. Yeah, because if we're getting the translation rotation from the physics engine, then this doesn't do anything. For now, anyway. We'll see. We'll see if I actually want to keep that. Because if I go back and... yeah, shape, position... that's the debug. Okay, so that needs to be renamed. Collision shape. Yeah, because that's just confusing. Otherwise. Next is... now we've done that. Oops. Yeah, because we get the shape position here, which is set to the actual position gets uploaded to the matrix. So I assume we can set the scale. So we have what? Position. Oh, I remember. Scale is actually very separate. In a very weird way. You have to do something different for scale. Because you get the rotation and position matrix separately from the scale for some reason. You'll look what I mean. I'll show you. So we have rotation and we have a we have a vec3 and we have a quaternion. Very simple stuff. But if I go M scale, you won't find it. That's because it's separate for some reason. But I have already worked this out in the past. So when I did the collision geometry shape, when I actually wanted to scale things, I had to do a... yeah, quaternion is very simple, totally. True, I mean, I've been doing my maths recently, doing my maths homework, and I can't really claim much, because I'm trying to raise the floor of my maths ability at the moment, so like I'm trying to work out the weaknesses and stuff like that. So, maybe I shouldn't be saying... simple on quaternions. Someone might call me out and be like, well, you said quaternions are simple, why are you struggling with this? So anyway, so we get radius from the shape, and that gives us the scale, and you'll see that someone asked me to take the derivatives of some kind of quaternion-based function, I would be like, bleh. I wouldn't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, the way I use quaternions is I do the conjugates, and then I just multiply them together. So, quaternion, vector quaternion, but the conjugate quaternion. That's it. Like, that's all I do. Or I convert quaternion to a matrix, and then just kind of multiply the matrices together. Nothing interesting. It's like... as we're just rotating on a four-dimensional sphere, as you usually do. Yeah, so that's technically 3D rotation. In the geometric sense, when you're actually multiplying quaternions together, it can be thought of as you're on the surface of a four-dimensional sphere that's rotating, which is a completely useless a visual metaphor that I read on Wikipedia once, which I kind of think is kind of funny. They are simple when you understand them, but deriving anything from them is like study the algorithms for it. Yeah, indeed. I just dislike working with anything that has imaginary numbers. They hurt my brain, indeed. All my maths problems go away to ChatGPT. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, I found out. I think I talked about this. I might talk down. I don't think I may have talked about this on Twitch. We had a YouTube stream, I think, because I was struggling with Twitch at the time. because I didn't realize I was making a big mistake with that, with how I was broadcasting. But when it came to the compute shaders to actually generate the particle effects, and what I mean by particle effect is like an explosion or, you know, thruster effects that are like coming out the back of a, again, sorry about the noise, coming out the back of a rocket. All that kind of stuff was, it's just, all it is, it's just maths, right? Outside of writing the compute shader, you're not doing anything complicated or interesting at all. You know, when it comes to, you know, the actual computer science stuff. So for me, it was kind of like, oh, I don't understand enough of maths in general to be able to write these compute shaders to do nice particle effects. So I found really that, yes, I can understand stuff like how the normal matrix works or something like that, but there are enough holes in my mathematical ability that when it comes to actually developing, you know, compute shaders to do particle effects, that's just maths. It's nothing interesting after once you've written all the emitters and the particles and the billboards and all that kind of stuff. I just couldn't do it. I just didn't know off the top of my head how to do these type of things. So that's why I'm studying maths in the background. Yeah, I think I need to do what you've been doing and brush up on my maths. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah. There you go. That's so all I'm doing at the moment is raising the floor rather than the ceiling, because, you know, I can constantly learn newer and newer, you know, like more advanced stuff, but eventually, you know, if I don't know how to, I don't know, you know, simplify a trigonometric function, you know, figuring out the derivative of some like complicated, you know, vector function that uses like some kind of cosine is going to be absolutely a no-go, right? Because I just don't know the algebra. So that's the idea of like raising the floor so the ceiling is easier to, you know, push through. Yeah. And I'm not broadcasting that because it is kind of boring. And it's mildly embarrassing, honestly, the level of maths I'm at the moment. But I'm trying to pick at the lowest level of maths, right? I'm trying to pick at like, what is my true flaw? And it's lower than I thought, right? So I'm being very much humbled by a bunch of, you know, very simple maths, which is kind of interesting. That's why I was asking on the Discord about maths. I was kind of curious what other people are doing. But it's also get better at programming, and that's all that matters. So, anyways, we have a. How do I get the scale out of this? In this setting, right? So there is so we get world transform. This does a, you know, get body world transform, which does the. It does a rotation translation, so it takes in these two. Pre-translate, I'm not entirely sure what that's doing, but you can see here that get world transform is a bit different. There is no scale here, except for this, but I'm not quite sure what that means. So let's get out the rotated translated shape, scaled shape probably. So we might need to add an extra piece of detail here where we have a scaled shape in the shape itself, so we can actually scale everything. Are you living with code? Living? Am I reading that wrong? Are you living with code? Am I live streaming coding? Am I living with code? I guess. All my high school math skills are gone after high school. Yeah, pretty much the same thing, honestly. Do you need this debug? Do you need this for debug visualization? Yes, both of them. I need both. I need it for both. But the debug visualization right now is only spheres. Because, like I said, I'm trying to get around stuff. So I think if I go in here, I think what I need to do is a scaled shape. That does contain the scale, which means I can get the... excuse me. Sorry about that. That caught me off guard. It's probably all the grass trimmings that they're doing. It's getting my hay fever going. Oh well. Alright, so we need to take the shape that we generate from the shape settings, set shape. And what I'm trying to do here is figure out what type of shape are we making here. Sphere shape setting. Does this even have... This might even have a scale, actually. I think what I need to do, actually, is maybe set the radius of this. Does it... Do we set the radius? I wonder if this scales down the thing, actually. So, in the shape setting... Oh, yeah, we do set the radius. So, let's... Okay, let's just try a... I thought this only does the debug geometry, but maybe it does more. I could be wrong with that. Anyway, so let's go to our bullet stuff that we were doing earlier. If your operations order is translation rotation scale, there needs to be a specific way to decompose the matrix. Oh, never mind. Ignore me. You figured it out. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Box 3D has functions to get all the shapes for debug drawing, seen internally by the physics engine. Maybe Jolt has that too. It does. Jolt has that too. But I pulled that out of the physics engine because I thought, well, why can't I just render it myself? It's going to be faster, right? Assuming that I get it right. There is a big caveat here. If I get it right and I can render the debug geometry myself, and I use my own shaders and all that kind of stuff, I can make it more specialized for what I want, therefore improving the efficiency of the rendering of the debug geometry. Caveat, assuming that I get it right? It's a big thing. Hey bro, I really support your show. Oh, thanks Yang. And you've got a lovely rubber duck. We have to show him, right? If you haven't seen the engine before, Yang, well, you've probably seen it if you've seen my videos, but this is for Yang. Hopefully this doesn't break, because I'm in the middle of something. We'll see. We've got to show him the main player right now, the rubber duck itself. There we go, look at that. Ta-da! Oh, I'm inside a rock. The lighting is a bit too bright, that's why the duck goes completely white, but there we go. We have a rubber duck in the game. And we've also had a rock right in the middle of, because I've spawned it in right there. So that's actually going to be quite useful to check right now. So what I'm going to do is, instead of having it... So what I want to do actually is scale down this dramatically. So let's see if this scale works based on this transform. If not, we might have to do something different. So we chose a sphere for this, and that makes sense for a bullet. I think what we can do actually for a bullet specifically, we can take the we can do basically what we did here, actually, thinking about it. We can get the scale. Put that there for a minute. Gonna come back to that. And not shape settings, but what's the actual... Oh no, yeah, this is fine. This is fine actually. Okay, so when we do the position, which is this shape position, what we want to do is take that. Let's just see how this works real quick. And get center of mass negative. I really enjoy a nice rock or two, indeed. There we go. Yeah, we do love rubber ducks around here. And we hate lawnmowers. Alright, so when we do this for a sphere, which I think is just a shape. No, that's just a generic shape. Empty shape. Where is the... Yeah, so what I want to do actually is take... Can I multiply these together? Like, I actually don't know if it's got overloaded or operated. I assume it does, but let's just try it. Okay, so we take shape. I'm gonna take this, go down here and go, okay. Based on the shape we've done, oops. Ignore that. It's gonna tell me that I've done it wrong because okay, so we can multiply these together, but an equals multiply doesn't make sense. Equals that, and I think that's going to scale it based on our scale, right? So if we have a really small scale for our bullet, and I'm going to change the position to above the duck right now. How long would it take to reach your level at programming? Well, it depends on how long you've got to study per day, and if you've got other commitments and things like that, right? I honestly think that despite me taking like, I don't know, like over 10 years, I've lost count how many years I've been programming. Now, honestly, it's probably been like 13 or something. People could get to my level in like quarter of the time, honestly, if they're very dedicated and have good guidance and stuff like that. But it depends if you want this. So it might not be something that a lot of people might like the idea of programming and then try it and then hate it. I don't know. It's a very individual thing. Okay, here we are. So what I'm gonna do is change the position to. So I say I trust that anyone can get to my level, no problem at all. I don't consider myself an expert. I'm definitely not what I consider like. I almost consider myself kind of bad. That's why I kind of like try and work quite hard at this. But it's hard to say. It's not like an easy number. I can't just say, oh, it's gonna take you, 4 years, and you can take that to the bank and cash it out. But so it really depends on like a lot of different factors. Hopefully that answers your question, despite it not being a clear answer really. If you try C++, you'll hate it for sure. That's it. That's why I code in a C like C++. If you look at my source code, it's going to be... okay, so that's what that is. So let me just scale that down. But it didn't scale the other thing, which is interesting. Right. Huh. Why did not that work? Because it would be nice to randomly scale the rocks actually, and make it look a bit less uniform. Let's just set a scale to like really small, like 4 something. I don't know. That seems small to me. Yeah, so it takes in a float. That's fine. And just see what that does. Because it is translation, rotation, scale, so this multiplication is valid if we've got rotation and translation in. Okay, so it's not affecting the model itself. Makes sense, that's very small. A language with 10 ways to insert a variable truly glorious. Yes, true. I don't mind C++, to be fair. I think I like the fact that you can pretty much do what you want with it. It just means that translating from one code base to another is pretty hectic. I've seen some C++ that barely looks like C++ to me. My philosophy is if I can make my C++ simple enough that you guys go, oh, is that it? Then that's good for me. I'd want you to be like, yeah, I could easily get this right. Assuming that you already know some programming. The last thing I'd want to be is like, oh, I used, yeah, some weird C++ feature instead of, you know, I used standard template accumulate, but I had to use a variadic template predicate in a lambda. That goes in and does a function callback with the model view, with a model view pattern, and that pattern is in a Pimple idiom, and then you know what I mean, like that type of stuff is just I hate it. I hate that way of coding. I generally don't like that. Despite the downside is my code, you know, I can't impress you with a bunch of complexity. But as Terry A. Davis said, you know, I think it's one of his famous quotes is, "An idiot admires complexity," and I'm not going to call myself a genius, but a genius admires simplicity, and I really like that. So, impressed with the simplicity, exactly, yeah. Terry Davis also said certain people do not like command line. Yeah, it's yeah. Unfortunately, he says I've said mostly bad stuff, but you know, he's had like lucid moments which have been like quite insightful. Question: why didn't you use headers? I thought modern C++ was done headerless now. MSVC, this compiler, is borderline impossible to get working with modules. And I think it's Clang or GCC that kind of supports them decently well, but even then it's kind of like not complete. Yeah, modules, I don't know. It's I think it's just because the compiler is so intrinsically based around like the linker step, and I think the linker step kind of, if you want, by the way, you can do a Unity build if you don't like headers. There is a Unity build style which has been around way before modules ever existed. Basically, if I look at this, I'll show you. Sorry, I'm being a bit distracted today, but I think this is kind of fun. I'm having to put up with hay fever do me in a bit, so the Unity build, for those who are like, what the hell does that mean? If you don't like headers, Casey Muratori has this Handmade Hero series, which some of you may be doing, and where is the main entry point to this? I've forgotten. Ray, retired, tag, build, code, there it is. And I open up his main project. He has one header, and then everything else is CPP files. He codes everything in CPP files and includes it in. Effectively, what this preprocessor is doing is it's copying and pasting code in. So effectively, he has like one file, according to the compiler, right? You know, you can see there's no header. Well, there's some headers actually. Now I'm lying. Okay, complete brain fart. He does use libraries. Does use headers. I do apologize for that. Actually, I thought he didn't use headers, but that's just me half remembering things. Yes, he does use headers. But, you know, the Unity build system's still good anyway. Never mind. Moving on. Swiftly on. Okay. We are... I'm not interested in LinkedIn. Yeah. Let's go back to this. Yay! You at the follow account on Twitch. Thank you very much, guys. There we go. 60. Pog. Thanks for all the support. But yeah, it is important to note that you can, like, this is not used very much anymore, but it's like, it's a way to, like, basically get around the linker being slow. This really speeds up compile time if you want to use it. But you have to design your code in a very specific way. This is why I like C++. You can do stuff like this. But anyway. And C as well. You know, C is very similar in that way. Anyway, so going forward, what do we want to do here? We want to make sure that, how do we scale anything down? So I'm going to just go look at my shaders real quick and just see what we're doing here to scale. Please excuse the lack of syntax highlighting. So we have a... Yeah, that's it. Sorry, I got it completely wrong, Oshi. Yeah, Oshi's right there. So yeah, Unity build isn't about avoiding headers. Yeah, I completely forgot. I thought it was for some reason. But maintaining a single translation unit. Yeah, so it's avoiding a bunch of compilation stuff, right? And for those who don't know, translation units are like CPP files and header files. They get included together into one thing, and then they get merged in together into a binary. So if you have one, then that second step of merging them all together into a binary is kind of doesn't really isn't it will never slow you down. Yeah, one object file instead of many. Yeah, it's I don't know why they did it like that, but I guess it's just old. So here, anyway, so let's yeah, thanks for the correction there. Or shy, or she. Hopefully, either way is fine. Anyway, so when we have a model matrix, which is here, this is, where is this coming from? So this comes from the model times by, yeah, because we need to work out if there's tangent. We need to do the tangent vectors after a particular point, so we have a push constants here, which is referencing a buffer. I'm just going to work backwards so I just make sure I know what I'm doing. Per instance. It's an instance there, and that has the position in it. Where does that live? Okay, so we have a position matrix. We have a debug model. We have a color, and we have padding. Okay. So I assume, hopefully, we have this everywhere. In fact, I'm going to take the struct because I want to see where this is filled up, because that's actually where the scale needs to be. A position. Okay, so it's unfortunately just here, but I think, as far as I remember, this is in shader data, which should be in the graphics in a header file. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so here we are. Here's the position. So it's entity data. So entity data takes in. Whoops. Sorry. So if I go to my, if we take that, do this, do a search for everything, remove anything else that's. This is bad. I'm reading memory here. I keep making this mistake. In 97 they didn't have memory, so variable names, 6 chars, headers separate from the implementation, etc. It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I understand why they have it. For those who don't know why this is bad, you have to read memory to do this, as far as I'm aware, to assign it, I think. If I create a host visible buffer and I say it's only read only, sorry, it's write only, and then I read it on deletion by setting, this is how I delete stuff, by the way. I'm doing a hack. Well, it's not really a hack. It's like you know, it's a valid way of deleting things, really. I just put it to the end of space and time at float max. Wouldn't work in something like Minecraft, but it works in something like what we're doing. Am I not understanding this? Let me, I've got to be very careful here. Okay, so assignments seem to be fine. But I don't know if this is fine. It won't be an issue. The problem is it's not necessarily an error. It just slows everything down when you do this wrong. Okay, so as far as I'm aware, anyway, this is just obviously wrong, but, you know, this is bad. This is what you can't do. But I'm not sure if this is fine, actually, now I think about it. I don't know. I'll look that up later. It's not the end of the world, but anyway. So what I'm looking for here in this part of the code base is, where am I assigning this thing? Yeah, position is got some value here. I thought I would definitely have a scale. Okay. Question: if I set this one, I've got a sneaking suspicion I've got nothing working. I don't think this does anything, so I'll have to check. S identity. Okay, so let's see. I know it's still interestingly enough. Yeah, I don't think this is doing anything. Is it a bullet? Right, does this ever get ran? That's the next question I need to ask. Yeah, okay, so it does get ran. What does this come back to? An identity matrix. Okay, so if I do this then, so we have a, let's look at the matrix. So it's literally just got some position data in it. When I scale, yeah, it is scaled, right? That's a scale. It's obviously a scale. Okay, so when this gets sent into the entity data code as position, why is it not conserving its scale then? Huh. Because if I go in the shader, right, this is going to be part of a buff, a uniform. This is a giant buffer basically that keeps the position of all the geometry in the scene. And we upload that to the GPU. We access it via the buffer device address technique in Vulkan. This is the contents of that buffer. Yes, it has some padding, which we could probably get rid of the color and then we'd be a lot more happier. But for now, we have this pos variable, which is technically rotation and position, but when I multiply it by the model itself, which is, so I have a translation rotation matrix here. We have the actual other, which is the model. So this is the position. This is purely just the position of the model. That's the actual, what is this actually? Now I think about it, relative to that. That is what we get out of the GLTF model. So if this has like, you know, this is why we have a duck, a rubber duck, which is bigger, smaller, sorry, than the... I'm kind of curious now, if I change the rotation, or if I change the order... I'm kind of curious, like, what's that going to do with that? Apologies if this, Okay, so also mod has hidden something from you, which I don't think. I think it thought you were a bot then, so I'll just allow that. Zaka. Yeah, too many underscores or something. I'll read that in a minute. Right, so this is going to probably look like garbage and break everything. Oh, interesting. No. What? So you can use scalar block layout feature, sysstructs, and see buffers match. I found that I can't do that for some reason. I don't know why. When I access the buffers via a buffer device address, when I do a random access on these things, I don't understand why this happens. If I do not do this properly, you'll see what I mean in a minute. I can get rid of this like real quick. Everything goes to hell and it just goes to junk. See, we're in black space. Ooh, frame rate is terrible. I will get rid of that before I crash the GPU. Don't know why. I don't know why I cannot, even though despite that I have scalar here for scalar block layout. In all my, when I'm creating the buffer device address accessing thing, it just does not like it when. So the alignment of these buffers are. Sorry, I didn't think I read your message. Detry. C and C++ give you a lot of freedom in how you organize your code because individual pieces of toolchain are simple yet powerful. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, so I don't know why we need to scalar block, use 16 byte align everything. CPU doesn't match. It maybe. Ah, that's true. Yeah, you are right there. Okay, let's get rid of this. I think it still doesn't work. Yeah, that would break it. So that was entity data, right? So we can actually go to scene. Where's entity data at? Oh yeah, it's I moved it here. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, that was me being daft. Yeah, if I get rid of both, assuming it compiles. Yeah, we still get stuff broken. This is the same struct. This is the one that lines up with that. You can see it with the layout. Don't know why that happens. I don't understand it. It goes against what the documentation says, but anyway. Yeah. I'll read the spec on it. Anyway. Let's try and get the translation in here. So we are getting the translation in here, but it's not applying to the model itself for some reason. And it doesn't matter which order we rotate them in, which is kind of concerning. And multiply them in, sorry. So we do a multiplication here. We have a global scale. Let's get rid of the global scale real quick. I don't think I use it. If I do, I think I do actually. Now I think about it. But I'm kind of curious if it's the global scale kind of scaling everything. Or I'm lying, we don't scale anything down. Oh, I only scaled things down because I thought it was a different issue. I had the normal matrix was wrong. Okay, let's just do a sanity check real quick. That is not compiling, right? Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure. Model position. Okay. So let's build a scale matrix just straight in the vertex shader and see if it like a global scale, because I want to see if this is even working, right? So how do I assign an identity matrix? I think if I do as far as I'm aware, that's not going to break anything. Is that an identity? I can't remember if that's how you do an identity matrix. Yeah, okay, so nothing's gone weird. Are we even using this in places that I assume? Yeah, okay, so... as far as I'm aware, this and this and this. So let's scale them kind of aggressively here. So like 0 dots, 1. We don't need to worry about column major or row major because it's just the diagonal. Let's make it floats. I don't think it matters, but yeah, maybe there is some kind of alignment thing, but I'll definitely refer to the struct, the documentation on this. Okay, so it does scale. Okay, so you can, if I turn off that, you can see we have tiny little rocks. So scaling, so if I multiply everything together, this is working. Okay, great. So that's all I needed to know, that if I do have the scale matrix in here. Okay, question 2 is if I scale this myself. Again, I'm going to apply it to everything. We're just going to, one step at a time, we're just going to do what we just did. But instead, we're going to use brackets like crazy and, you know, just do what we just did. I'm kind of curious, right? Like that. And then we're going to go up here, press that equals, and then 0.1, just like we just did. We should be updating the position. Get rid of this because that's not going to work. So we should have everything just very small. U model should include scale. Exactly. That's why I don't understand. I'm working backwards from the shader. Okay, so clearly that. Okay, so I think the rotation's wrong. I did this on purpose, assuming that it would rotate, but it looks like... So you can see everything warped then. It's because, you know, for those who don't know anything about matrix multiplications, you can't... A times by B is not the same as B times by A, right? Okay, so interestingly enough, we are scaling things very strangely. Oh, okay. This is odd. Now, this is, like, clearly wrong, but... The thing I don't understand is why is this perfectly shaped and the rest warped? We've got, like, shearing happening here. Or more correctly, if we go over here, we can probably see it easier. So this is what a shear looks like. I don't really know why we're getting shears, but anyway. Huh. Is the position a matrix? We just... I want to do it here because this is where the physics comes from. And if we don't scale down the physics, actually, now I think about it, this has to work this way. Yeah, okay, so... Actually, the physics scales down anyway. Let's look at the debug vertex shader. Yeah, sometimes this is how coding goes if you've never joined these streams before, where I'm just kind of confounded why we're getting some strange... So the position and the debug model are different. So we have a debug model here, and I think instead we have a... Let's bring back the global matrix before I forget how to call that. So yeah, that's everything back to normal. So we have model position instead. And that is that. I feel like I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm such a stupid idiot. So debug model, when we do that in the scene. Debug model, collision. Okay, so that actually gets the... Okay, so what happens if I did this, then? Oh, did I make a mistake in my matrix? On construction model matrix. The scale impacts is on top of a 3x. Oh, you're right. Yeah, it does impact rotation. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for that, actually. Okay, interesting. Uh-oh. I'm not even going to go inside that rock. I don't know why the collision geometry is so huge, but every single rock, 8,888 rocks are inside this one rock. So yeah, we're not going to go there. I had a feeling that that would do something different, but it clearly didn't. I don't understand why that happened, though. Oh, this is very convoluted, I'm not going to lie. Is the rock pregnant? Indeed. It's becoming a boulder. Alright, there we go. Okay, just restoring that back to normal. Right. If I went inside the rock, the frame rate would go like to like 0.1. I'm just getting some water. Okay. Okay, interesting. Let's do... I don't know. Let's do one more thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to... is there a set translation? So I'm going to say translation is equal to... Zero dot. So it should be above us, right? So I'm going to make it below us. Like, actually we won't be able to see it instead. So it shouldn't be above us, it should be below us. Now, I'm going to say equals. That's it. That's all that's changed. That's all I want to do. No, it's still above us. Okay. That tells us that the data that we're passing in over here does nothing. And that's definitely bullet, right? Maybe I need a new model to like help with this debugging. Let's just make sure we even go in here. Okay, so we are at 8,800 plus 1. We see the radius is that. And we work out this, and we go in here. That's the body. Okay, so we have the shape, which is translated, not scaled. There's no rotation. We do this, and then we say, okay, that's the translation now. When we come out, what did we end up with? So we come in here with -10. So yeah, okay. I'm not going to really know what this is until we return it. Let's see. Position matrix, where are you? Alright. Position matrix. Huh? Did I spell that wrong? Do it again? No? What is happening here? This really shouldn't be static anyway. Recently learned I wanted this to be inline. Let's try again. Alright, so we set this up as that. I know what's happened. I just figured it out. The physics engine's putting it back. We're saying it's -10, right? Down here. And then the physics engine's going, oh, you set it to be +30. So in the very next second, well, probably even before it completes the loop, when we update, next time when we update the physics engine, it's going, oh, +30, right? Because we passed it in. That's all what they were doing here. That's why nothing's updated. It has to be done in this. Otherwise, the physics engine that we write to the data to, the reason that we need to do this, by the way, is because every single frame, we need to update the physics engine. And that means we need to update the shader, right, with the data that the physics engine's updated. So every time that happens, the physics engine's spitting out new data that we overwrite with. So it doesn't even matter. I could say this is, what we've been messing with down here. I could say this is 99,999,999,999, or -1 billion. We could do a Balatro non-infinite, right? It doesn't matter. Like the next time we run the physics engine, it'll be +30 because that's what you passed in up here. Because that's what's internally happening in the physics engine. That's what's happening. That's why we're not seeing any updating. It doesn't matter what I do with the vertex shader at all. Okay, so that's what's happened. Now the question is, how do I add scale here, which is the tricky part, in a way that's meaningful? Because I need to have this. Okay, so the physics is going to be updated with this. This is truly a 0.2, a 0. Whatever. Sorry, 1.5. That is truly what's going to be in the physics engine. That is the scale technically. It's just the radius of the shape. The model is not going to reflect that because we're not updating the model's scale based on the physics engine. It's usually the other way around. So that means we need to scale down. Yeah, we need to go back to what we were doing like originally, which was like, no, hang on, let me think about this. We need a way to scale down the model. In the way that we want. How do I do that? So we have a tag, entity tag. We have an entity. We have a model ID effectively. Through an indirection, through a we have a system that we can access other arrays, because we have structure. Is it structure of arrays? No, arrays of structures. We have arrays of structures, and we index into them by a number. So a bullet type, bullet 1, will have like a way to access the model. And then if we wanted to scale it, we would have to access it that way. So if we do a... How do we access the model's ID? Yeah, the model type. I don't think we have anything in here that's useful. Let's see. So we have entity, we have the entity data, we have the models. And the models, what do you have? Okay, so we have another level in here. Okay, so we're getting close, but I haven't just quite figured it out yet. Yeah, thanks for bearing with me, guys. We've definitely made progress now. Conceptually, but not in the code. So deferred success, as my old colleague used to say. It's an old joke at, you know, management speak. Managers never fail. They only have deferred success. Right, so debug models. Yeah, the scale, we can't have the scale here. Can we though? I'm so confused. Where's the scale coming from in here? The global scale, it's one of these two. One of these does have the scale in it. And I wonder how it's done. Because we need to do the same thing for our regular models. What have I done to do that? I've done something clever in one case and I haven't done it in the other. Ah, right, okay, so... yeah, we put the model in two different places. This is really awkward. And again, this position gets updated every single frame based on the physics engine, and it doesn't respect scale. When we update this every frame, what do we do actually? Oh no, you lost the scale indeed. Also, hi. Hello, hello. Ah, thank you for joining us. Yes, I ready to do a couple of days ago, didn't I? Or a week ago, I can't remember. Thank you for joining us. I hope your game development is doing well. Yeah, I'm currently in the middle of like a mind melting matrices are all over the place. They're in different structs, and I'm trying to figure out how to combine them all together. The physics engine's updating things in a way that's making things difficult to mess with. Oh, it's very there's a lot of moving parts basically, and a lot of it is trying to get around. So the physics engine. So when I do a debug geometry, so here's what I'm trying to figure out right now. So we have the debug geometry. Let me show you. So we have in our space game, excuse the terrible title, we're supposed to have scaled this rock down to a really small size. Hence, ooh, I've turned off the turned off the debug geometry, and this is what the debug geometry should be inside here, right? This, but as you can see, the rock is much bigger than that. Because I want to be able to scale things in the game. Fixed most of the pressing issues from the playtest. Yo, nice. And spent a bunch of time in Blender, so progress is moving slowly. Hell yeah, dude. You're at the playtest level already. Oh yeah, you were talking about that on your stream, actually. Yeah, now I remember. So in some way, the way we update our render loops on the debug geometry preserves scale, but not for our models. So we need to figure out how we're writing our data up to the GPU. Oh man, I feel like I'm so close to cracking this, but I just don't know exactly where I'm doing this. So we have a... So sorry if this is a bit like all over the place. I'm glad you're crushing it with your stuff, man. Great to hear. If only I could say the same. So we have a mesh raw. Where do we copy the data? Interest. Ah, is it this? No. We're not doing a mem copy, which is confusing me. Because here we do a mem copy for the materials. We do a VMA. Hang on, I'm just going to make sure this is not used for other things somewhere else. So that's the global scene data. That's the entity data. Oh, interesting. We never update it. Right. Okay. What? Okay, so what happens if we don't ever update it here either? This is probably going to break a lot of things. Okay. Does the physics... I assume the physics doesn't do anything now, yeah. Yeah. The physics isn't moving. Ah, I'm so close. So the physics is updating the matrices that hold the position, rotation, and translation. Translation and rotation every single frame. We write that to the shaders with this. And this gets us to here. As in shape, which is center of mass. I know my render loops aren't the best, by the way. I'm not using any deferred render, indirect draw calls deferred rendering. So yeah, please excuse that. It's not ideal. But at least I'm using instances. I know. I mean, it could be worse. It could be a full for loop without any instance rendering, like it was originally. But I am aware it's not ideal. Yeah, so that does the... This is us filling up the... If I could get the translation, the scale here, then everything would be fine. Yeah, so that would tell us, based on the scale of the geometry. Yeah. We need to get the shape from this body interface. If we can do that, we can get the scale. But we need to get the shape from the body ID, so I don't really know how to do that. Yeah, because it's only going to take an extra piece of information. Get shape. Okay, cool. So that's going to turn a reference. Then we just multiply them together and we'll get the scale. So let's just do this. Here. The entity body ID, which is a for loop going through all our entities. So we should now have a way with our get shape, which gets this to get it has a scale in, I think. Yeah, there's words of scale in here. Where's the M scale? This might not be the right type, the right function. Where was the... I keep getting the wrong things. Thank you. So in Jolt... Okay, let's just make sure we're not doing something stupid here real quick. We're in the body interface. There's no get scale in here. No. There's get shape. And turn this off for a minute. So in shape, we should have some kind of scale here, which I don't quite understand where it's gone. Right? Go back to the scene and we'll be able to see it. This is where I'm getting my information from. So if I go into collision shape, we have get shape here, which is a... What does it return? It returns a pointer. What do we return here? To something called shape. Just shape. And get shape. Where's that gone? Oh, have I... Where was get shape? Okay. It's a reference to shape. So if I want to get the scale, I get radius. Based on a cast. Ah, right. Okay, so that's how it's worked out. Because it's a I do a dynamic cast to a shape that actually has the right thing in it, whatever it is. Right now everything is sphere, so this is safe to do for just our case particularly, right? So we need to do a dynamic cast. Apologize if this is a bit confusing. Okay, so this is a shape ref, which is different. Do I dereference the reference? How do I get out of this? I wanna cast it to a type, right? Get pointer. Then I can do this. Okay, what's the pointer returned? Yeah, just a shape pointer. Why didn't that work then? The object oriented. Oh, did I put the asterisk in the wrong place? Yeah, okay, so I did that slightly wrong. Then get radius. Okay, hang on. I've got to it's the cast's not happening in the right order. Now obviously this is just a hack for now. Get radius. Then I have a number which then I can get a scale from that, which is... Okay, so what's the actual type that's returned here? So it is a float, thank you. Scale. Then I can say multiply JPH M mat44 S scale, pass in that number, scale. That should now maintain the translation and the scale at the same time, based on the fact that we've made it a sphere. This is the most horrendous function I've ever seen in my life. Okay, I'm exaggerating a bit there, but yeah, doing this is not good, but I want to see if this is going to work. So, fingers crossed, guys. We do have a scale that's part of the translation rotation. Thank goodness for that. Now, will this explode? Likely, but we're here for it. Alright. Let's see what mistake I made. Okay. And it didn't work. Okay, but still, I do want to try messing with these values a bit. So 0 dots, 4. So even if we did have the right values, did it actually come out to mean anything? Like, does this actually scale everything down? Yes. That looks smaller. I think everything's gone smaller though, hang on. Interesting. So if I take this and make it a 0.1, I know I'm using a double here. I don't think it matters. The implicit conversion is fine. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so when we get this out, what do we get? Oh, yeah, okay. But then the debug geometry is wrong, right? Dang it. if we pull out the size of the bloody model based on what the physics engine's doing. That's what we're doing anyway. We're just doing it at runtime instead of load time. So that scaled it in the wrong direction. Actually, that made it bigger. Yeah, because okay. A 1 scale would make it the same size. A 0, yeah, because it would all be normalized relative to the model size that I passed in Blender, right? So if I scaled it at 1, it would be the same size as what it looks like in Blender. If I scaled it at 0.5, then it would be half the size of that. Meaning that what we need to do next is decide how we want to scale things. Do we want to do it like we've been doing it with the debug geometry? Wherever that is, hang on. Or do we want to do it... Okay, yeah, because we have entity data. Do we have debug yeah, debug model, right? Where's that used? Yeah, so that gets passed up here. And we could probably make this a const reference instead. I don't think we should be copying if we don't have to. I don't think we modify anything in the scene, we just read. Let's just make sure that works. We're very close. We just need to figure out how to do this in a way that makes sense. Yeah, so that's up there. And I think if I go inside this rock, we'll see like a very... We'll see a blip of purple. Yeah, there it is. Ugh. It's very difficult to get inside because it's so small. Okay, yeah. So it's scaled, unfortunately, the debug geometry at the same time. So we've kind of double scaled the debug geometry, which is not what I want to do. So the question is, how do I want to deal with that? I'm surprised it hasn't scaled everything by this. I moved to CatchyOS. My father thinks it's Windows. I see. So he came into your room one day and said, "Are you winning, son? Looks like you got a new Windows operating system." And then left. Is that how it worked? We're very close. So this is effectively applying the scale after the translation. Sorry, after the physics has happened. I don't know why it's not maintaining it. Ugh. We don't update the geometry in the debug geometry because it is faster not to do that if we can avoid it. He successfully set WhatsApp somehow. Nice. You really should move to CatchyOS really fast. I've heard great things from CatchyOS. I love CatchyOS. It's my Windows subsystem for Linux distro. Cool. If I have a situation where I need to not use Mint, I will move to Catchy, I think. Until Linux Mint breaks, I'll stick with Linux. I don't know. I feel like the only reason I'm sticking with like the baby distros is mostly because I want to make sure that, assuming that I'm building my game engine that's going to run on Linux for other people, it needs to be able to support I was thinking about the code again. It needs to be able to support the widest distribution of like what people are using for Linux, right? Catchy with cinnamon, exactly. So I know a lot of people are using. Yeah, that's the problem, right? Because Catchy is an Arch-based Linux system. As far as I'm aware, most people are using an Ubuntu-style Debian-based Linux distro, right? So that's a big concern for me. I'm pretty much tied down to what operating system does based on what other people have installed. You cannot statically learn libc. Yeah, there's a if someone has a trash Linux distro, like I don't know what they've done, like remove libc, then yeah, it's I'm not going to do that. What I've done, for those who are interested, on my Linux distro, I set the LD library path variable up, so it points at the DLLs that I've installed on my computer. I will pass with you. So what I do is I set up a fork and an execute function around everything. I set the LD library path, and then I do a fork, and then I do an execute after I've done that. So I basically make a first, if you don't know what that means, I basically set up a process to set the LD library path up to point at the SDL DLLs, effectively, shared libraries. And then I run the actual executable with the LD library path set up in a way that allows us to then, run the app like it would be on Windows. And once the executable ends, there is no permanent change to the operating system. It just picks up where the I don't know what the full name of the application is, but LDD, because the LD library path points at all my libraries, my shared libraries, knows where to go when you've executed the program, and then doesn't I haven't made any permanent changes to your operating system. But that assumes that you're on a kind of basic Debian-based. I don't know what would happen if you ran it on an Arch-based Linux system. Yes, yeah, it is the linker. I don't know what it's called though. Is it just called the linker? LDD. I don't know what you call it. What does it stand for? List dynamic dependencies. Yeah, okay. So effectively, I set up LD library paths so this happens. I mean, obviously this will work on any Unix type thing, but I'm not going to test it on Arch-based Linux systems for now. Yeah, it's a Linuxy thing. If you type this, if you want to know oh, why aren't my libraries linking? So why isn't my executable linking? And you run LDD, your user, your program, you'll see something like arrow and nothing listed here. Also, I can't remember if it says not found or just nothing. And you'll know that, oh, this is the library that's missing of the thing that you need. It's really useful. And if you set up LD library path, it's just literally LD library path is an environment variable, which is on, typical installations of Linux. Then it helps out. I don't know what this is talking about, so I'm gonna, it helps out LDD so it can actually find the things, because it will look through the LDD paths. Sorry, it will look through the LD library paths. All to say, this allows you to click on the application like Windows, which is I know Linux people love Linux, and I'm not going to bash Linux because Windows has been absolutely atrocious recently. But There are some things I do like about Windows, which is how it kind of natively understands that in its operating system, if there's an LD, a shared library, or a .dll next to your executable, it will just know that, oh, that's still actually, it will just take priority and use that DLL over any other shared library that's on the system. Now, I know that's not how Linux works. There is a whole system behind that on the operating system of Windows, but I do like it a lot. Anyway, so we're adding a double scale here. So if I take out, I'm going to do something real quick and just check if I go into scene and I take out this, what ends up happening? Like the collision shape. There's probably better ways of doing it, by the way. That's just a fact. That's just the way I've found how to do it myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to an identity matrix, just so it doesn't do anything. Oh, what am I doing? There we go. Alright, so let's just see what this looks like. I'm kind of curious what ends up that. What does that do? So I have a sneaking suspicion that the geometry is effectively the same size, right? So it's really small, but I'm inside a bigger rock. It's also the same size. It's like the default size. The problem is the models aren't the same size. This is why I did this. So I need to scale this up. Oh! Hang on. The debug... Hang on. This might be quite simple, actually. If I take the debug size and set it to 13... Right? This is the debug geometry. So that'd be 13 times the size, which would be terrible. Ah, that's not gonna work. We could have the... I got an idea. Instead, we're going to have to maybe make this a bit bigger. So for the entity data, maybe we should just have the scale baked in here as another vector. That would get rid of this anyway, because it's just so difficult to store it. Scale. Or size, I should say. And if I do a vec4, then that gets rid of that padding anyway. Which is kind of, you know, it's been redundant data anyway. So if we take that, yeah, I think this is the way forward. Hello, is this your game engine? Yes. Links in the description, Dork, if you are interested in the actual source code. But yeah, this is the Void game engine I'm working with. Good to see you, Monchi, by the way. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take... say size, right? No, we don't need to do this. We could do it instead of passing it to the shader, because that's kind of redundant and completely useless. We could instead not do anything here, but use the metadata and then store it in the metadata way. Okay, so that I think is going to help us because we're actually multiplying this on the... sorry, first time hearing it. Yeah, that's a great question. If it's the first time here, welcome. Hope you have fun while you hear me going slightly insane, trying to code stuff. So the metadata struct is the entity data itself. So this. So if you just have the size in here. Obviously I would love to have this as small as possible, but yeah, so what I'm going to do is float size. I feel you good luck. Appreciate that, dude. So this to 1. And when we're creating everything. So we have 13. Where's the bullet gone? Oh, that was it. Sorry. Right, so I'm just going to make a quick adjustment to this. And just pass in the size real quick. Because this needs to be part of everything for now. I will just set this to 1 equals 1. I think I'm eventually not going to make it explicit. Just so I can just do this and test it real quick, right? So equals 1.f. I hope this is good. I hope it isn't crap what I'm about to do. So the entity data is duplicated with size. Size. Okay. And what we're going to do then is here we're going to take in what I want it to be. So for example, the bullets are going to be 0.1 the size. 0.01 actually. And what I think is going to happen, hopefully, is for the bullet only. Just make sure everything else is good. Yep. And we go into our game. And we're going to take our entity.size here. So we're going to bypass the physics engine altogether. We are going to multiply it by the same thing, but we're going to get rid of this. So now the... when a game makes sales, what percentage of the revenue goes to the coder? Well, if I'm the only coder and I'm the only person making the game, I guess 100%. But that's, you know, after Steam takes their 30% cut, and assuming that I make even enough money for this, tax. So, I don't know. It depends on the revenue, but generally speaking, it just goes to me. There isn't anyone else working on this project at the moment. There isn't any divvied up stuff, so I think that's the problem that I've been having this whole time. That looks promising. That looks exactly what we needed. Yep, that's exactly what we needed. Now the question is the physics going to play nice with this? Yeah, the reason that this is, it's because we're very close to the object. That's why we've got like this white. Yeah, it depends on a lot of things like Freelancer, LLC, country. Yeah, so stuff like that. It's a lot of money. So that's good. I'm going quiet here because I'm thinking that despite us making everything render the right size, the physics engine still thinks this is a 13.5 radius, which is still the size of a regular rock, which means the bullet's going to have a massive collision sphere, which doesn't fix the problem. So if I go to our game real quick, we remove this. This is still, unfortunately, like that. How is this both affecting the debug geometry at the same time? It's still that big in the physics engines world, right? Have you considered adding some star and planets in the background? Yep, we'll be adding all sorts of things. Well, we'll see. I don't know how much we're going to add or what we're going to add, but yes, I have considered that. Right now, I'm still kind of working on like fundamental stuff, like we worked on spawning stuff in, so that's done. The other thing we did was we did a bunch of particle effects, which still need to be improved. So we're going to add like I'm going to try and make it look nice. There's going to be hopefully some lighting and stuff like this. I hope you succeed. Thank you. It's looks like a nice project. Appreciate that, dude. What game would you like to make the most? Yeah, take a break. I think my brain needs a break for that question. I have like a lot of ideas. So the problem is with the way I've decided to make games. I'm very limited by the technologies, unsurprisingly, right? So when I'm thinking about like, oh, what games do I want to make? I'm limited by the tech. But despite saying that, I have so many ideas. So many ideas, dude, for a lot of different games. But which one do I want to? Which one do I want to make the most? I do want to make the space game. That is something I do want to make. I can't. Why is the tower defense genre so prominent here? I don't know. Join Twitch game dev tower defense cult. Oh, okay. I always thought those games were super niche, easy to program and do. I see. Okay. Okay. So here's an idea, right? That I've always had. I've always liked the idea of having like a third person game where you're like a wizard, and you kind of navigate, you kind of interact with the world with the spells. And I kind of like the idea of like, instead of, for example, walking with a torch, you kind of like make your own spells. So you could do stuff like light up the environment with a spell that you made yourself. And I kind of would like it to like look nice, like every spell kind of have its own like kind of combination and kind of stuff like that. I haven't really thought it through, like what that would be gameplay wise. Stuff like that I've always liked to do. Obviously the space game. What else is there that I would really want to make? Because I often like bat these ideas out. So I have like a crazy idea where you're like a crazy person, and it's like a bait and switch. Like you play as the insane person, and the voice inside your head is the the normal person. I don't know what that would mean, gameplay wise, but yeah, exactly. Don't need to make levels or custom, says Zaka Zaka. T-Cap is doing, yes, it's still in pre-file for Holy, calling out T-Cap. Yeah, it's the tough thing. So there's lots of, I would just like my engine to like look nice and do a lot of explaining and stuff. So I explain a lot of like nice things. I often come from like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do this? And then like try and build a game around that idea, rather than like I have a whole game idea and then I like make the game, right? It's like I have this one silly idea and I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this was in the game? So like something like the crazy person idea is like, what does that mean, right? That I just like, I don't know, it'd be kind of interesting. I always like kind of like Spyro type explorer games as well, like 3D character action platformers that aren't too tricky, that are more about exploration. I'm really into exploration more than anything. What do you mean you are constrained by the technology? Well, the technology, Ragstall, because I'm making my own game engine, it's like, well, if I have like an idea and I want to implement a game, I've got to code that myself. So I'm more constrained not by the technology technically. I'm more constrained by my own ability to code that technology quickly in a way that, you know, would make sense for a game. So that's what I'm limited by. So when I come up with like a cool game idea, like for example the wizards thing that I kind of like, where you kind of make your own spells, it's like, oh, that's kind of cool, but like, could you code that? And it's like, well, well, I guess I'm limited now, aren't I? I screenshot that. That's funny. So yeah, it's that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not really into like. I know it seems silly, but like I would love to have like a mad, like if you imagine like Elden Ring, you know, so it's super like bleak, kind of like super pretty environment, but like the combat is like where everyone goes, right? It's like the combat is the environment is like the dressing around the like cool combat, the enemy abilities and stuff like that. Like I kind of want to just take out the bosses of that and kind of just like run around and, you know, grab stuff and explore stuff. Like that's like kind of like why I like, you know, that's the kind of that's why I love exploring. So like that's my favorite thing to do in video games. Like it kind of annoys me if there's like a really difficult boss in the way sometimes. I'm like, ugh, I just want to see what's over there. I don't really care about this boss fight, you know. That's just me though. So that's like the type of things I like to do in video games. Like I do that a lot. I just like drive around in a video game, or I just fly a spaceship and just explore stuff. Like make up my own story. I really enjoy your videos on how to become a good how to become good at programming. I've watched it several times. I appreciate that, dude. Yeah. Well, good luck on how to do that. I'm also following my own method here, so I hope it works out for you, my man. That's true. I don't see to consider the market, but at the same time, I think if I don't want to play the game, then I don't want to make the game. Which isn't necessarily always aligns with the business decision. Like, oh, I don't know. Let's just say, I don't know, Five Nights at Freddy's type games are really popular. It's like, well, I could make that, right? I could make a... What does a 1 look like? That's quite small. But I personally don't like those games, really. Sorry to disappoint anyone. But I kind of find them kind of... I don't know, not enjoyable. Yeah, making what you like is the key. Okay, so this is scaled down to what I want. Now I just need to scale down the model. And if I take this, and I multiply I made a backrooms game in Unity without knowing anything in the first 10 hours. Turned out great. Oh. It was just a test. Oh, fantastic. Well done. Yeah, it's that's it. It just makes stuff that you like in my opinion, yeah. So you're not gonna find when you play my games, if I even make them, you know, I'm pretty, sometimes I'm pretty harsh on myself. But let's just assume that I'm like the game developer I need to be, and I can make the game. Like you're not gonna get like a super difficult game from me. You know, I like Mario type games. You know, where you're just kind of like chilling. Yeah. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna take. Where's this data come from? I don't know. I'm going to get rid of this. I just want to see the difference. Even if it fails, you still have something you're proud of. Exactly. Yeah, and yeah, it's like when I got all the what is it called? When I can actually fly around, like I do have music in this game. It's just, you know, copyright from my music. But when I had that and I was flying around, crashing into rocks and stuff, like I was having so much fun, like just by that alone. So, you know, it's, you know, so I am making stuff that I do like. I will be playing this, I think, once it's finished. And I play it when it's not finished even. I think I understand what you're trying to say, or at least I'm suspecting what you mean with other engines you are working on before you realize you needed custom tools. I've been programming before game engines were really that popular. So I've just increased, like I've made games in the past, right? There are games out that I've made, but they most have been 2D. By the time you finish, probably be sick of it. And every single game I've made is with my own game engine. Or at least someone else's game engine and kind of like adapted it. So it's the only real way I know how to do game development, to be honest. Ooh. Oh no, spawning, sorry. Wrong thing. I thought I set that to the wrong value. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Zaka. Nope. I'm a bit stuck, I'm not gonna lie. I think I've tried everything. I'm just making... It's so difficult to use this. I'm not gonna lie. This physics engine's great, I guess, because it does a lot of things really cool, but it's like... It's very difficult to use. In some particular cases when you want to scale a geometry, like just because the rotation and translation is not built into the body interface when you want stuff, it's just I know I'm complaining a bit here, so you know, boo-hoo, I guess, but yeah, this is why I'm struggling so much, because the translation rotation is not here. Sorry, scale isn't here, sorry, I meant to say. And there's no scale here even. Oops, if I could type it out right. And you can only get that from the shape, and the shape is dependent on what you've passed in, and it's like, okay, I can do that, but then it messes everything else up. It's tricky. Now Zaka APIs are... just give me a minute. Twitch is telling me something. It's like telling me off, I think. Oh, there was a pre-rolled ad, I think, and it now is finished doing pre-rolled ads. I don't know what's going on Twitch. I've barely got Twitch working, so, you know. Anyway, do you also do game dev professionally or just passion project? It's just a passion project, you know. I don't know if you can call this professionally. I'm a dev in fintech. Nice. But also looking to start exploring game dev on the side. Yeah, go for it, dude. Make stuff that you want to make. I know fintech is quite lucrative in the money making world. But yeah, if you wanna do game dev, you know, the only thing stopping you is you know, time, I guess. All the hubbub I heard about Box 3D wasn't even a 0.1 release. Yeah, I'm probably not going to go to it because it's just going to probably take too long, but it is tempting, I'm not going to lie, based on all this struggle. Because the renderer I've written is just... It's tricky because I need to set the scale up in a way that Yeah, I'm kind of trying to avoid something here. I think I've added too many translations here and it's getting really confusing. I might have to like rewrite some of this, which is not what I wanted to do, but I think yeah, I don't know much about Box 3D, to be honest. I just know it exists and it's been released and people seem to use it. I seem to like it, I think. All right, so we absolutely need to scale the geometry based on the this. The problem is this scales one thing, and when we scale the geometry, it's scaling two things at once. That's the only issue. So the debug geometry gets scaled twice when I scale the model. And the question is why? Why is it getting scaled twice? It should be scaled once. It's getting updated by... It's getting updated by this for some reason. Why are you getting updated by that? If I go into the shader, we have... Go over there, please. We have this, but we're not using position, are we? Oh. Yeah, we've got too many multiplications in here. I think that's what's going wrong. Yeah, okay, so everything's in one place, which is fine. And that's correct. I wanted this to be huge. We've got like 1,000. That's why we're getting lag. Okay, so we get rid of this. Are they all the same size now? Yeah, they should be all the same size, I think. Just this is the last one rendered. Yeah, there's nothing anywhere else. Okay, so that's the scale. So if I bring back... Yeah, so we've got 2 scales here. So that should be the position, but the scale should be wrong. Yeah, okay. But if I take that and do a... Okay, this is... we do this. Again, we're just going to have to steal a bunch of code. Put this back in, hang on. And... Well, we'll hang on. We'll do it like this instead, actually. Scale. Multiply. And then what I'm going to do is going to take this. Do float equals scale. And I'm going to get rid of this. Now, this is not going to work up to there, so we're going to take that. Get shape. It's going to get us that far. Get pointer. Oh, it's not. Yeah, sorry, get pointer. Ugh. Oh yeah, get that of that. That goes in there, that multiplies by that, let's see. Oh, wait. This is good, this is promising. I did set that to 100 on purpose. I don't know what it's surrounding though. So if I set this and go, okay. Go into bullets real quick. So we're going to here. Where's the bullet gone? It's all the way up here. Yeah, so if I want this to be 1, that should be unit size. Right, yep. And if I make this, let's just say 0.1, what does that look like? This is working, but it's not working exactly how I want. It's scaling things slightly differently based on, because they're 2 different model sizes. Okay. Unfortunately, it's 5 o'clock, which is typically when I end. So I'm gonna raid someone real quick. Thanks for joining us, guys. I don't really have anyone, unless you guys know off the top of your head who's someone cool that you guys like. I'm probably just gonna pick someone who looks like their project's kind of interesting, like some kind of game dev thing. So we got a lot of Russian things. Let's try again. Maybe I'll just raid someone I like. I don't really know anyone in the I don't really know. I don't really see anyone. The 4U. Is there a way to search? Because I would like to see a C++ developer, maybe. Why is Ludwig coming up with C++? Is he writing C++ right now? Okay, that was a useless search. Okay, how about Adam Learns Live? Sounds good. I'll give him a raid. Give that a go. The category is dead. It's only AI, Godot, and web devs. Interesting. Okay. One last search, and I will. Yeah, no, I guess no one's doing engine development like me. I mean, I don't mind Godot developers, by the way. So I'll just look for a. So it's done some. Someone said Z yesterday. Z, sure. So we go with that guy actually. Yeah, we'll start that. Cool. All right, thanks guys. I will see you all shortly. Appreciate you all. The Discord's in the on the channel. Thank you for being part of it. YouTube as well. Appreciate you guys. Thank you Twitch. And I'll see you guys shortly. All right.